Okay, let's get into this. So, starting out here with the the basics. We're in the key of E minor, 1 sharp, F sharp. We're in compound time, 12/8. This means that for every beat, 4 beats per measure, we have 3 eighth notes. Okay, instead of like 2 eighth notes, how 4/4 duple meter usually is split into. Okay, that means that our dotted quarter note is going to get the beat, and we're at 125 BPM. Okay. We'll go through the chord progression here first before we talk about the litany of techniques and kind of breaking all this down and what's going on here. But we're starting with our E minor 7 chord. This is like our stock 5-string minor 7 chord voicing and no inversion. Our lowest note is an E. In the second measure, we have our flat major 3. That's G major. Again, lowest note is a G here. Then we're going to our flat major 6. So already 2 major chords in a minor scale, right? This is C major 7. We're starting with our C. We hit our 7th here, which is B. Then this is kind of important. We go to B minor instead of B7, B dominant 7th. Usually you would see the dominant 7th or like our B7 in place of B here, but in order to prolong the phrase and avoid hitting too much tension at the halfway point of this, we're going to save that for the end. So this is just our minor 5 chord, B minor. This is the exact same as the first measure. This is pretty similar to the second measure, but again, the same chord, G major, E minor 7 over here, G major over here, C major 7 up an octave here, our flat major 6, and then finally we hit that dominant 7th chord, B7 here, with our D sharp and our A added to our usual B minor chord, okay? Or the D sharp takes the place of D natural. So, okay. Again, we are in compound time, so we get this kind of bouncy feeling as we hit 3 eighth notes per beat. And it kind of has a similarity to swing time in 4/4 with triplets, with the use of triplets. This is actually transcribed on the official tab in 4/4 with triplets and swing time, but it's much, much easier to just read it as a standard 12/8 across the board. You don't have to deal with, inconsistent divisions and how they're actually played and heard. So, okay, again, we use the stock minor 7 voicing. This movable chord shape, which doesn't use our pinky. It uses a bar with the first finger on the 7th fret, third finger on this 9th fret, and then middle finger on this 8th fret. That leaves our pinky available to play this hammer on, pull off kind of thing. Then we play a fragment of that chord to shift positions to 5th position. And they're going to do this all over the place, this little move right here. They're going to pluck and then use left-hand tapping to offset this plucking or this hybrid picking. This M right here, you're going to see these as well, means middle finger, okay, on the right hand. And yeah, when you're in, compound time, groupings of 3 are uneven, especially if you don't have them one after another. Obviously 3 plus 3, that's 6. You're going to end up with something even. But if it's just a group of 3 on its own, you're going to end up with a picking pattern that might not be, that might not accent or accentuate the first note of every beat, which is usually desirable. So what you can do, or what they've done here, is they've used hybrid picking as well as left-hand tapping, or like hammer-ons from nowhere, to offset what the right hand is doing. And it's kind of out of necessity, but it also makes things much more interesting to hear, because the hybrid picking and the left-hand tapping, those are both going to have different timbres to them, different audible articulations. So, okay, yeah, this 0 is moving up to the 3 here. Again, no inversions for any of these chords, so it's pretty easy to follow with your ear what's happening where our root note is. And yeah, we're gonna hit our 9th here, pull off to G again. That's the root of our chord. And then we get this tap. It's all the way to the 19th fret. And then that pulls off. This tap slide pulls off to open D, which is another chord tone, our 5th of G major here. That really just gives us time for the left hand to hit these harmonics. 2 of these harmonics, G and B, are part of our chord. This E is not. That's like our 13th of G, really. But yeah, this, again, out of necessity to get to this harmonic with the left hand, we're going to do something with the right hand so that the left hand has time to shift from this, from second position. Okay, we hit those harmonics. Then on the 8th note, right before this last full beat, we have this little slap mute, dead mute kind of thing where the strings hit the frets and they have an audible percussive sound. And again, it's just to reset the right hand pretty much to get down to this G that we have here. Okay, then from this G, we sequence up, or we play diatonically G, A, B to our next root note, C. And then we have this sequence that, again, hybrid picking, left hand tapping, is just offsetting, like, so that we aren't hybrid picking twice in a row, or so that we aren't having to use the pick really fast. And yeah, that gives us like 3 different articulations. We have like a down pick, a hybrid pick, and a left hand tap that we can all choose from. And that just diversifies overall the timbre of the notes that you're going to hear, which is pretty desirable. That's pretty nice, especially when something is a little more simplistic, like your chord progression or a sequence as we go up and down. And you can see this sequence here is like pretty high up, honestly. What these are fifths, right? From C to G, then E to B, and then this G to the E is actually, this is a 6th. So we kind of shoot up here a little bit. And then again, C to G, E to B here, and G all the way up to E. So this is what? This is the exact same thing as this, just an octave up. We're using different articulations, obviously, and these harmonics to kind of bridge the gap in range. And these are the same exact harmonics that we saw here. However, for here, every single one of them, B, G, and E are chord tones of C major 7. All right, then we get to this minor 5 chord. We run this little chord up. This is B, G, and A. Okay, just to kind of get to this 12, which is a chord tone, this D natural. That pulls off to open D, so literally an octave between these 2 notes. We use this open G to kind of bridge the string gap, I guess, between here and here. Then we play these 12s again. Again, these are fretted though, they aren't harmonics. These slide down to the 7th fret, which is a little more common to see for this B minor chord. Right? Or if you're thinking like B minor pentatonic, that's kind of like the position that you default to. This is B all over the B minor chord again. And then we use this left hand tapping. Take a look at this to offset on the last 8th note of each beat our picking. So we're gonna like heavily down pick this so that we hear beat 3. We're gonna heavily down pick this as we grace note into beat 4. And then yeah, we have some double stops here. These are thirds. Like I said in my last video, thirds, sixths, pretty common intervals to hear when you're harmonizing a line or something. And yeah, this left hand tapping, these hammer-ons from nowhere are actually pretty difficult because they're betwixt chords and intervals that you're playing. So other fingers are down while you're trying to do, or multiple fingers are down, I guess, while you're trying to do this thing specifically. So, okay. Measure 5 is the exact same as 1. Measure 6, very similar to measure 2. This portion is just brought up an octave. This dead slap remains in the same position where you do that with the right hand, but instead of doing the harmonics, we have this little, this cute little chord, okay? That's like your stock voicing for G major or any major chord across 4 strings. Okay, so that's just our triad. We have root, which is G. We got B, D, so root, 3rd, 5th, and then G again up top. Okay. Yeah, and then this is literally up an octave. These 2 notes, we use the open A string again, but that octave jump, again, is facilitated with this open string, tap, right hand tapping pull off. I will say this jump is pretty like hard to get to, honestly, all the way up to this chord. But nonetheless, it's possible. We have a whole beat where our left hand, I guess a beat in an eighth note where our left hand is not doing anything to get to that chord. So, okay, this octave jump makes it so that we are now up high, like we've elevated from the very start all the way up to, 14th position here. This is a pretty cool little move. We have a pedal tone C while we hybrid pick E, B, and E, other chord tones, to get up to this second string from the fifth, and I guess furthermore from the sixth all the way over here. And yeah, again, we're just doing something pretty similar here. The articulation is completely different from the third measure that we had. If you want to go back to that, we can kind of see we sequenced all the way up, right? And here we're kind of using this pedal tone thing upwards to get to that high 17. That slides down to 15, pulls off to 12. We use a left hand tap or left hand hammer on to get to that 14. We hybrid pick this open, and then we left hand tap two notes, this 12 and the 14 here. This is a D and a B, okay, on our way down to our root note, back to our root note. But yeah, you can see a lot of hybrid picking across this measure. And this is really, again, this is a really tricky move to left hand tap these two notes and then immediately set up this chord. This is B, D sharp, A, and D sharp again. So we're really, highlighting that natural third in our B dominant seventh chord as we play that kind of thing. That's where most of the tension is going to be, that D sharp. That's our leading tone to E, which this is in the key of E minor, right? So we're going to make use of that. We're going to make that known. We're going to make that audible. And yeah, they kind of like, they don't play this all on beat one. It kind of like arpeggiates into this 12 that happens. Then we hammer on from 12 to 14, huge slide down to 8. That pulls off to 7. I like to use my middle finger there so that this pull off is a little bit easier. So first finger to middle finger there on the left hand. That way I can pull off from 8 to 7 as I get there pretty easily. Then we left hand tap this 10. We're gonna play like this cross voice chord. G, G. Oh, sorry. There we go. Oh my God. G, G. We have an octave, then open E here. None of these are chord tones really. And then we're gonna left hand tap to pull off this E to D. D is a chord tone, okay? And then we're gonna do this. We're gonna do like Polyphia's favorite lick of all time to get back to our B, which is our like fifth note in the scale, our dominant note in the scale, and then that goes back to 1. Yeah, again, this repeats after this at the beginning with a different ending, but there's enough to talk about here, right? And yeah, I mean, pretty simple. Again, pretty simple in terms of the chord progression. There's no inversions. We got a couple seventh chords, whatever. A lot of the difficulty in playing this and the interest in listening to this and hearing this is the position changes that we use and that we have, the wide range gaps that either happen one off or we stick with for a little bit, a lick or two, and all the different guitar specific techniques that we have access to. Left hand tapping, right hand tapping, slurs like hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, hybrid picking. We got double stops. We got these dead like mute slaps. Grace notes, full chords, fragments of chords, and arpeggiation. Like, I mean, it's all over the place with the articulation. But this is a really good one to learn if you're trying to, figure out how those techniques can work within the context of a riff, right? So there you go. That's The Worst by Polyphia. I might do more of this song later on, but honestly, this is like kind of the coolest part and one of my favorite Polyphia riffs in general. So, all right, if you have any suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Any comments or anything you might want to say, just shout out to me. Hit me up. See ya.